first 10, 15 minutes, which will be indicative of a lot. Um, but we'll go from, but yeah, usually within a half hour. All right, hello guys, I am live. This is our election night coverage of 2021. It is 8:01 p.m. The polls have just closed. We just got an update. Our total absentee ballots are just about 1,050, between 1,050 and 1,100. So that's not a spectacular number to compare that to past years. We've been in the 300 to 400 range for absentee ballots. So an increase, but nothing unexpected based on what we saw last year in COVID and people not wanting to come out. We're looking at overall turnout being in the that 2013 to 2017 range. Remember, last year, Jamie Cosgrove ran for first selectman, did not have an opponent. So we didn't have the highest turnout that we normally have in an election. If we go back to when he was first elected, we're getting that kind of turnout this year. So here's how it'll go tonight. Probably in about 10, 15 minutes, we'll get our first returns in. Those usually come from our smaller districts in Branford. That's Stony Creek or Short Beach. That'll give us a good indication. These have always been very close districts. They've been traditionally very left-leaning districts, very Democratic districts. And so Cosgrove, while a Republican, kind of crosses over, longtime Democratic family. He was a Democrat. So usually if those are very close, it bodes very well for the rest of the districts for Cosgrove. If the Democrats have made up a lot of ground in those districts, then it could be a little closer in the other districts overall. And at the top of the ticket, I know a lot of people felt Cosgrove would win easily. We don't know that for sure. We'll find out pretty soon. But how close that race is at the top of the ticket can impact things that happen lower on the ticket: tax collector, treasurer, town clerk, and then the RTM. And so part of the strategy for Democrats this year has been to make a strong push to take over lower ticket items. So the lower tickets of clearly tax collector was aggressive, town clerk was aggressive, RTM. And if the Democrats were to take control of the Board of Selectmen or the RTM, that would kind of handcuff Cosgrove. So while they may not beat Cosgrove, they would handcuff him. So we're waiting now. I am at Republican headquarters. We're at Lenny's. You may recognize the backdrop here. In about 10, 15 minutes, usually, what the campaigns do is have somebody stationed in every polling station. As soon as the polling closes, they print out a piece of paper that tells you the votes for the different candidates, and then they call it into here, and then we post the results up. So as results come into us, I will make sure I post those and get those to you. If there are questions, please post them. We'll be talking throughout the night on how elections work and in some of the questions here. You know, we had an interesting election season, and depending on where you stand, it was either positive or very negative. I can tell you from my own experience, I've been covering Branford for about 11, 12 years in depth on politics. This is the most negative I've seen any campaign be. That's on purpose. That was a strategy to try to take out Cosgrove or to impact or to take away from his vote. There was one really serious mess up by the Democrats putting on a mailer criticizing the police and fire department. It appears to be accidentally. You know, they were going after Cosgrove, apparently without realizing that Cosgrove does not handle communications during live shooting incidents. That said, when that was pointed out, they doubled down on that, and they said they stood by it, which was a very odd decision, an odd political decision, and that certainly impacted them. And I know from talking to police and firemen and first responders, that impacted them in a negative way. That said, we're going to see what we have tonight. We'll see in a few minutes. We're just waiting now on our initial results. We have a board here at Lenny's screen, and I will, as those come in, we will lay those out for you. So we're just going to buy time a little bit and have a conversation and talk about the process. Overall, the town is in my opinion, very good shape. The voters get to speak tonight. It's a sacred responsibility that we have. I know people who know me know I was raised very religious, and as a Jehovah's Witness, we did not vote. So it means a lot to me to get out to be able to vote. And my goal with Branford 7 and this podcast is to allow people to have an informed vote and actually have conversations about what's happening in town. My assessment is that the town's in very, very good shape. A lot of very good things happening. Some of the attacks that came were not warranted. ideas of economic development not doing well, that the town center was not doing well, things of that nature, and they simply didn't have any basis in reality. And so it's going to be an interesting question tonight if the voters agree or they disagree and think it's time for change. Now, there's some things that typically come with a change election that we would normally see that we did not see. Typically, when there's people that are upset about the town, they want to see change, they want to see new leadership, they show up to the polls early. That 6 to 9 hours really has high turnout. We didn't see that. We didn't see some massive turnout early on. It was fairly consistent throughout the day, and our numbers are not significantly higher than past years. So we're not seeing all of those numbers point to happiness in the voting base, not looking for significant change. On top of that, it appears that Cosgrove has gained some support in Democratic circles because of his strong focus on environmental issues and social issues. And that's something that has been his hallmark for the last 8 years. So we don't know for sure, but all the indications are positive for Cosgrove. We'll know, and we're also looking at not just Cosgrove, but down ticket. We had a very interesting race with the tax collector. Roberta Gill Brooks is the incumbent. She had been there for 4 years, but we had some issues there. We have independent reports from the state, independent reports from auditors saying some wrongdoing was taking place there, changing dates on payments. We're going to see if that had any impact on the voters overall. Many people like her, but whether she's competent or she can handle that job, we'll see what the voters feel. Bob Imparato was laying there in the wings as a challenger, and he was a qualified challenger. We have the town clerk. It was a very interesting race overall. You had a person who's been there for 8 years run against somebody she hired and somebody she trained. And so whether or not voters decide to change and put someone else in charge or stay with the town clerk who has trained her, the person under her, the person who's running against her, will be interesting. So we're just waiting now for our first results to show up on the board. As soon as we have that, we'll bring those to you. It'll be a good measure of where Cosgrove stands overall. Whenever we have an incumbent, an election is about the incumbent. Are people happy with her? Are they upset with them? That sort of thing. And it's going to get a little loud in here. So we're going to have some music on. There's people eating and enjoying and waiting for the results. You may hear some cheers. You may hear some less than happy responses. So bear with me. I'll try to speak as loudly as I can. But for the time being, leave us on. I'm going to hold off for a second as we wait for numbers to show up here on the board. As soon as we have them, we'll bring those to you. If there are questions or comments, please send them in. I'll do what I can to answer those. No, we don't have results yet. I mean, I'm getting text messages on results. We don't have them yet. As soon as we get a response, we'll post it. All right, so District 7. Oh, my God. Jamie Cosgrove just beat the living shit out of Tom Brockett in District 7. So District 7, Cosgrove 543, Brockett 270. Is that 278? It's just that's... Okay, so District 7, which is Pine Orchard, came in first. Cosgrove with a massive, massive lead, almost a 2-to-1 lead in District 7. That is playing out for Higgins with a 200-vote lead as well. Cosgrove leads by about 270 votes in the 7th district. Now, that's not a huge surprise, so we can't measure too much yet. We really want to see how he does in District 2 or 3. That's not a huge surprise yet. But Brockett lives in District 7, and he just got destroyed in his own district. So that's a pretty significant result. Conklin took the lead over Schwanfelder. Schwanfelder picked up some votes. I would say about 50 votes over Brockett did. So that's telling you that there are Cosgrove voters at the top who are going down ticket and then sometimes switching over to the Democratic side. That shows a lot of support for Cosgrove from a significant group of Democrats. The numbers so far, all Jamie, we really want to see 2 and 3. Jamie Cosgrove, everything else is kind of his stronghold. The smallest districts are 2 and 3, and those districts typically lean Democratic, although Cosgrove has been able to win them on occasion. We're looking at, so Board of Education, DeLucia's over Cantu by about 140 votes. Troidel over Sullivan by about 120 votes. We need that Imparato Gill Brooks number, please. It's going to be a telling number on tax collector. These numbers are coming in slowly, so just bear with us. But so far, numbers are as we expected in the 7th district. We see, and I think we can officially state that the Republicans have picked up a seat on the RTM in the 7th District. Both Republicans, Kevin Healy and Barbara Maresca, beat the 2 Democrats by a significant margin. So it looks like, based on the current election, all right, stop. Don't yell the nonsense, the national stuff, please. Imperato 488, Gilbrooks 370. So 150 more votes for Imperato. Now remember something, we don't have District 2 and 3. I'm expecting Gilbrooks to do very, very well in Districts 2 or 3. So tax collectors, it might be a very close vote. On the Board of Ed, they're close, but Verdun and Rayner, the 2 Republicans, with about at least 120 vote difference over the Democrats. So a significant jump up for the Republicans. This is not a surprising outcome. We expected this. What we are I'm kind of surprised that personally. Jamie is really pulling some Democrats, there's no question. There are people who went Cosgrove and then went back to their parties below that. We really need District 2 and 3. I want to see what those are the smallest districts, but those are typically Democratic strongholds. So if we see Jamie, I should say Cosgrove here, but I'll say Jamie, close or tied in those districts, it's telling us the race is basically over. But the number at the top of the ticket, that's a 2-to-1 margin in Pine Orchard, which is Brockett's home district. That's a beatdown in his home district. I don't think we're going to see a surprise at the top of the ticket. I think we're looking at a Board of Selectmen that looks like Cosgrove, Higgins, and Dunbar again. That seems pretty set. We're just looking at lower ticket stuff for the most part. Because once we get to District 6 and District 1, those are all Cosgrove votes. So we're just waiting for more votes to come in. What, you need the internet? You need the internet?
No, I got it.
Okay. And we're just waiting here for results. We got Pine Orchard actually much earlier than I'd expect. And those numbers are what we'd expect. If we go back, I could probably pull up numbers from past years. In 2013 in the 5th District, Jamie won also a larger turnout in that district, 872 to 436. Oh, that's the 5th, I'm sorry. 595. Jamie won by almost a larger margin now than he did in the first time he ran. So the 7th District in 2013, Jamie Cosgrove's first election, 595 to 315. That also had J.C. Wyatt taking some votes. He has won by a larger margin. He's almost 2-to-1 now, but a little bit less turnout than we expected. Now we still have absentees to come. Remember, there's about 1,000, almost 1,100 absentees to come. That could impact this a little bit, but it won't be a spectacular difference. All right, we're just waiting now for more results. Dunbar's home district is Stony Creek. District 6, Cosgrove crushed it again, another 2-to-1, 686 to 323. So in the 6th and 7th districts, Cosgrove is running away with this. This bodes very, very well for lower districts. 6th district is the largest district we have. So this bodes Higgins with a huge number as well, 627, 359. Yes, we're at Republican headquarters. Again, we don't know what's happening on the lower ticket yet. So these are only day of votes. We don't have absentee votes yet. So we have about 1,100 absentee votes that we calculated. So you're hearing cheers because Republicans are crushing it on day of. Republicans are always going to have a lead on day of voting. This is not surprising. We still have 1,100 absentee votes to worry about. We're not going to get those results probably for another hour or two. Imperato with 600. So we have a really big lead now. We have almost, I would say, 450 vote lead for Imperato over Gilbrooks. Again, the 2nd and 3rd districts still have to come. And Gilbrooks is going to win absentee ballots. The question is by how much. So for the Democrats, they need a big absentee turnout. 1,100 really isn't enough for them to be a huge game changer. And big numbers in the 2nd and 3rd districts, which are the smallest districts in Branford. So we have 6 and 7. huge numbers for Cosgrove so far. Huge numbers for the Cosgrove team. They're all way ahead. And part of this is, this is Tom Brockett's home district, and he just got destroyed. This may be indicative of a very, very negative campaign. And I think people said in Branford, we don't want that here. Remember something, the person running the campaign this year for Democrats came from New Haven, moved to Branford just 2 years ago, and I would rather not have "Let's Go Brandon" yelled at a regular basis, but so we're still waiting, but significant leads here, and I expect Jamie to win big in the 4th district, in the 5th, and in the 5th. So for Democrats, their really last hope is the 2nd, 3rd district in absentee ballots. We're just waiting for more results to come in. They're putting up RTM numbers already on the 7th district. Looks like the Republicans picked up a seat. Democrats had a 2-1 lead last time in that seat. 3 seats get elected. Oh, really? Is that true? Riccio barely made it? Such an asshole. I'm live. Not fucking live. Sorry about that. I should have said that. I don't care. All right, District 4 numbers looks like coming in. Do we have them? This should be a Cosgrove district as well. 6-5. This is a done deal. District 4, which is the center, which is the 4th ward, 658 to 410. So Cosgrove is just building on this lead. Cosgrove has an 800 vote lead right now. Higgins has a 600 vote lead. These are not leads that can be made up by absentee ballots. So absentee ballots, there are about 1,100 absentees. I expect 300 of those at least to be Democrats. The question on absentees is, are they people who normally vote anyway? Deb Conklin with a 500 vote lead, 550 vote lead overall for treasurer. Imperato with a 500 vote lead as well. Again, the only saving grace here for Democrats is we haven't seen the 2nd and 3rd, which is their strongholds, or the absentee ballots yet. I expect Democrats to be able to make up 300 to 400 votes in the absentee ballots, but all of these margins are too large. What? So far, really no surprises. Cosgrove's team is cleaning up house. Again, we haven't heard from any of the areas that Democrats are going to make up any gains, if they're going to. If they make up gains, it'll be the 2nd and 3rd and in absentees. We don't have those numbers yet, so we're waiting on those to come in. Something just came in. That's probably the 5th district. I'm going to get a little quieter because I think BCTV is going live with Ray Ingraham. Although I think they're on a delay. All right, District 5. This should be a Cosgrove district. 821. 469. Just an absolute beatdown. This is Cosgrove almost leads 2-1 so far. 800 votes more for Higgins. Arpin with a big 729. So she's making up more ground. And you're hearing cheer after cheer from Republicans behind me. But these are all their districts. Republicans dominate right now all the larger districts. So with this lead, it'll be almost impossible for Democrats to make it up. But this is really the Branford voters saying we don't want the negativity. We are seeing, so you do have a close race here between Imperato and Gilbrooks for tax collector. It's within about 550 votes, which can still be made up. So I would not be shocked. That's still, that tax collector race is neck and neck. That might end up being neck and neck and go to absentee ballots. The first district should be huge for Imperato, and we'll see. You know what? Why are we yelling Brandon? It's not yet. You don't have the second, third, or the absentees. Why are you yelling, let's go Brandon? Why are people yelling that? All right, stop. It's not helping. We're live. It's not helping. Okay. Yeah. And the energy is great, but the let's go Brandon thing is a national thing. And so far, all the numbers, again, we don't have absentees yet, and that's a key number. So, no, none of these are people in the back of the room. Actually, one of the workers here is Brendan Conlon, who just walked in. They were yelling that, let's go Brandon. But you have some hardcore Republicans in the back. I'm fine with that. So we're still waiting. We do want, I don't know what's taking so long to get district. Why don't we have second and third districts yet? I'm at Lenny's. All right, so we're still waiting on 3 districts and absentees. We may not have absentees for a few hours. There are about 1,100 absentees that have to be counted. I expect those to lean Democratic. The question is how many? I wouldn't be shocked if they lean Democratic by 200 or 300 votes compared to what we see here. It won't change who wins first selectman or likely the top of the ticket. The interesting race still remains tax collector. We had a lot of controversy with Roberta Gilbrooks. My belief is even if she wins, it'll be a shortened session. You're going to see some state investigations into her. But we'll see if the voters decided to change it out preemptively. 21st? Yeah, that makes sense. Jamie Cosgrove just walked in. And the second district is coming in. Wow. So Higgins won the second district. This is a beatdown. The second and third districts are Democratic districts. Republicans have won the second. I think the whole town just said no to Brock's campaign. And Gilbrooks did not make up any ground in the second. Imperato wins 414 to 400. They'll make up ground in the absentees. Guys, please back away from the screen. Even Board of Ed. That's amazing. This is just a complete. It's a pretty significant beatdown by the Republican team. I'm sorry it's loud here. We're still getting, but for Jamie to win, can they go back? Can you have numbers for Jamie at the top of the ticket? So right now, tax collector, without the first, which will go to Imperato, and the third, which will be close, a 600 vote lead. Wow, in the second district, a Democratic stronghold, Cosgrove won 492 to 338. This will likely be the biggest margin of victory he's ever had, and the worst performance by the Democrats in recent history by far. It was a campaign that went heavy negative. a lot of false claims, a lot of false mailers. Residents did not like getting mailer after mailer, and their attack on the police and the fire department and first responders during that live shooting incident is clearly showing up here. Hey, Dennis, oh, either way. We're waiting on the first district. So there's no question we can call this. Jamie Cosgrove is the next first selectman, will remain first selectman. Angela Higgins will remain on the board of selectmen. It certainly looks like Lisa Arpin will remain the town clerk. In the first district, Cosgrove, 857 to 393. That is an absolute beatdown. Holy God. Angie Higgins I've never seen this. By the time this is done, the absentees are not counted. We have about 1,100 absentees. They won't be enough to deliver. I expect them to bring up maybe at most 300 more votes for Democrats of those 1,100. That's not enough to make a difference for any of these seats so far. Imperato destroyed Gilbrook. We can basically say we're going to have a clean sweep. Imperato is going to win tax collector. We need the numbers from the third district. But it's a bad night to be a Democrat in Branford. Unless you're a Democrat that's a Cosgrove Democrat, then you're pretty happy. Angie will take the second seat. Our Board of Selectmen will remain the same. Jamie Cosgrove, Angie Higgins, and Ray Dunbar will remain on it. You know what, though? Yeah, Ray Dunbar will remain on it. Board of Ed, it looks like so far that you're going to have a sweep for the Democrats on for the Republicans by the Board of Ed as well. Listen, there's no other way to put this. Nobody's a nobody Democrat. All right, there's no voters who are nobodies in town. If you came out to vote, there's no such thing as a nobody. But we can see that even to get these numbers, where Democrats outnumber Republicans 2-1 in Branford, to get those numbers, you have to have a lot of Democrats that have gone and voted for Jamie, and in this case, in some cases, voted for the Republican slate. So far, I don't know the answer to this yet. Do you see the numbers for RTM? Potential? I can't see. All right, so it looks like, okay, By was the lowest. So in the second district, which is Stony Creek, the Democrats will have a 2-1 lead on the board of RTM, which they have now. That doesn't change their game. Hold off on the Bob and Prado call. I just want to wait until we have the third district in. I will tell you right now, had I made a prediction, these numbers beat what my prediction would have been. So right now, without the third district, Cosgrove with 65% of the vote. And we're waiting for the third district. Cosgrove leads by almost 1,800 votes. With the third district, which is the Democrats could pick up some, and then absentees, he's going to win this by a large margin. Whoever this person is, can you back away just a little bit? This one here. Back away just a little. And so then we have, the only real question mark is the Imperato race. So right now, 3,500 for Imperato, 2,674 for Gil Brooks. I don't believe there's going to be enough in the absentees to make that up. District 3 coming in now. Cosgrove won the third district. This is over. We do want to find out if Gil Brooks made up any ground. Dunbar made up some votes in the third. It won't be a game changer in any way. So Arpin with a 1,000 vote lead with 1,100 absentees. There's no way that's going to happen. So Arpin will likely remain the town clerk. don't see how Schwanfelder can win, so Conklin will be the treasurer. Okay, so now we have Gilbrook's made-up round in the 3rd district. That's Short Beach. That's the most Democratic district we have. So what does this mean? It means that right now, Imparato has 3,787 votes. Gilbrook's has 3,131. About 650 votes separate these two. There are 1,100 absentees. We have to imagine Democrats can make up at least 300 or 400 votes. Can they make up 650 or 650 they'd have to make up? I don't believe so, but we need to hold off to see that for sure. Jamie Cosgrove will win easily. The Board of Selectmen will remain the same. Lisa Arpin looks like she will remain the town clerk. Conklin is going to be a little closer, but it looks like she's going to win treasurer. Now, Board of Ed is all close. So here's the question with Board of Ed. Right now, Verdun with a huge lead, Rayner with a big lead. They lead by about 500 over Marie Watson, the highest grossing Democrat. Can they make that up with absentees? We don't know the answer to that. 500 is a lot to make up in 1,100 votes. Victoria, can you ask this gentleman to stand aside, please? I just need to see the screen. If you want to sit down, you can. I just need to see the screen. You can sit. All right, we'll probably have another 45 minutes to an hour before we get absentee ballots. And so right now, from a Board of Ed standpoint, I know people are asking about that. Republicans are sweeping the Board of Ed. However, there are 1,100 absentee ballots. RTM looks like the Republicans are going to take up some more seats. So Jamie's behind you. Jamie's right there. So we're just waiting on the Board of Ed. The absentees could play a role there. There's a significant lead so far for Board of Ed seats. Yeah. Okay. So, but the low voter was an R. Yeah, you're good. I can see. Sorry, we're trying to get some information here. Hey, Kelly. They're in celebration mode here, so we don't have answers on Board of Ed yet. I'm going to read this to you. So the Democrats held on to their RTM advantage in the 2nd and 3rd districts. It looks like the Republicans made up a seat in the 5th. I'm sorry, made up a seat in the 7th. I can't see the 6th yet. Hey, Phil, what up, Board of Ed? I just want to read the current Board of Ed numbers. Okay, so right now, Board of Ed, and we can do these. Tim Rayner is the high vote in that first category. 3 of 4 get on. Tim Rayner, Peter Verdun, and Marie Watson would be on. Brett Jolie is the low vote. About 650 votes separate those two. So in order to get on, it would take a significant turnout of absentee ballots for 2 Democrats to get there. So it looks like, unless all the absentees went Jolie, Marie Watson would make it on the Board of Education. DeLucia can too. DeLucia with a 600 vote lead. Again, that'll be hard to make up in the absentees. Not impossible, but hard. Troidel with about a 600 to 550 vote. Again, not impossible to make it up, but unlikely. So right now, the Republicans with a significant lead on the Board of Ed. Again, we have 1,100 or so absentee ballots to count. Well, maybe about 1,050 of them to count. Well, also remember, we're at Lenny's. There's a bar attached to this. There's people drinking. So, I'm not hearing any of those chants where all the candidates are, or certainly Cosgrove, who doesn't ever do that. But there are people. There's a bar attached. There are people yelling political things. And we'll have in a few minutes. God's a wonderful creature. That's great. That's great to know. Some spammer just posted they were cured from herpes. So that's good to know. Well, yeah, it's not impossible. So if I look at Board of Ed now, the closest one is you have Verdun with 3674, Watson with 3187. So you have a 500 vote difference. You have 1,100 or so absentee ballots. Can they make up that difference? Yeah, they can. It's not impossible. So it's unlikely, but it can happen. Lindsay won easily. Yeah, I'm going to tell you, this election seems to be even Democrats saying we don't want the crap. We don't want the false claims, the negative mailers. And it's different with a local election. When you're watching Hillary go against Trump, you're seeing they're nebulous. We don't know them personally. We're not friends with them. People in town know Jamie Cosgrove. When you send out attacks against the first elected that they know, people don't respond well to that. So we can have Jamie. Want to come on now? I'm going to back this up and bring Jamie in.
Do you mind if making sure no one takes this?
Yeah. So we're here with Cosgrove. It looks like Jamie took. Now we have 1,100 or so absentee ballots to count, so we don't know for sure. What are your thoughts on this race?
Well, so far, very happy with the results. As far as the race, I thought we had a very, very strong ticket, probably one of the strongest tickets that we've had. We had a full ticket. So, and we ran a great campaign. I think, we started with what we call this campaign, got the message out there, ran on our record, proud of how we ran this last campaign, the 4 previous campaigns, and I'm just looking forward to the final numbers to be in.
Well, it looks like you're safe. We do have, with those absentees to come, I believe it's about 1,050 absentees. Yeah, it could make up some difference in some of these races. The Verdun race. Scroll down. Hey, Ray. Scroll down to the full Board of Ed numbers. We're kind of getting in celebratory mode here, so we have kids knocking into the ballots. I need. Hey, Bill. Scroll down so I have the other Board of Ed seats. So right now on the Board of Ed, all right, so Delucia with all the 7 districts in without absentees, 3,668 versus 3,084. 600 votes is probably too much to make up in absentees. Troidal with the lead, 32-32 to 2,700. 530, it's possible that could be made up, but it would be tough. Look at it this way: even if Democrats take 70% of the absentee ballots, that's 700, 300 for the Republicans. They make up 400 votes, still not enough to make up the difference they need to make up. This may be one of the rarest elections where every single race outside the RTM, Republican sweep. And right now, that's what it's looking like. So Jamie wants to be a little bit hesitant to say, hey, we won every seat. We get that. But I can say that it looks like so the other one that was close was tax collector. If Toronto has a 650 vote lead, that's going to be nearly impossible to make up for those absentee ballots. So we're looking like we may have a new tax collector. That'll be close. We have to wait for those absentees, so we'll be here with you. And if we're not live, we'll come back. It's a big vote. All right, there's a bunch of people calling for Jamie to go celebrate. We'll grab you. Thank you, Jamie. Thank you. All right, so we're going to reach a point in this where there's like not a bunch of stuff to still talk about because we have just the beatdown. There's no other way to put it. And I can see the Democrats making up some votes in absentees, but right now Jamie has a 1,900 vote lead. And so I think more than anything else, this is Branford saying we don't want the negativity. Now, Lenny's may not be the best place for this because it's the loudest place on the planet, and there's nothing to deaden any noise. But if you are, I think this is in the best interest of Branford anyway, but if you're a Cosgrove voter, if you were happy with the senior center, with the animal shelter, with the library, with the new law school, with taxes, with mill rates, then you're in a really good spot. You have 2 more years of Jamie Cosgrove. And let's hope the Democrats understand that running the negative campaign that we saw, the constant barrage of false claims and constant barrage of lies, the false mailers, the false posts, videos that came out that were untrue. Let's hope that ends. And RTM, Republicans are going to control the RTM. They picked up a seat, at least 1 seat on the RTM, possibly 2. It's just a really, sometimes as members of the press, we pick which party to go to based on who we think will win. I think I picked the right side tonight. Who will win the World Series? I have no idea who will win the World Series. I'm not really good at picking that. I didn't place any bets tonight. So I have a lot of questions coming in. I'll try to answer what I have. In Guilford, those looking at Guilford, Sean Scanlon just announced that row A and C, so the Democrats with some independents they were running with, won by a massive 2-1 margin. Not a surprise. We did have one slate that was making claims that were clearly untrue. I think both sides got kind of nasty in that race, but to those curious about Guilford, a pretty clean sweep by the Democrats there. That's probably a good thing because you would have had a really seriously controversial Board of Education for a long time. 4th District, I believe, the Republicans swept. I can't see it. Unfortunately, there's so much celebration going on right now. I can't see the screen. As soon as I get those results, I'll publish them to Branford 7. But the long and short of it is this. There were people who were nervous today, didn't know what to get. When you don't have a huge uprising for change, and you didn't see momentum happening, people who wanted Jamie out of office, it was a good indication that we're going to have numbers that are just crazy numbers. Remember, Branford has a 2-1 Democrat advantage over Republicans in registration. There are far more Democrats at Branford than Republicans. And we watched Jamie, a registered Republican, most people say he's as moderate as it gets, non-political, win in a landslide, and those coattails came down. Unfortunately for the lower part of the Democratic ticket, Rocket was a terrible choice for the top of the ticket. He did not help the ticket at all. And this young man who came from New Haven to run their campaign, Kevin Coughlin, clearly did not understand Branford. That type of negativity doesn't work here. People don't want those attacks, especially against Cosgrove, kind of a native son and a well-known name and well-liked. So we do have, you're going to have a 5th term for Cosgrove, and barring some shock and absentee ballots, it looks like Lisa Arpin will remain town clerk. We'll have a new tax collector, and we'll have a new treasurer overall. These are the voters saying, we don't want it, we don't want the garbage, and cleaning house. Kurt Schwanfelder, who leveled some very false attacks against Cosgrove, looks like he will lose his seat. How are you? By the time this is done. Again, we don't have final numbers because we're waiting on 1,100 or so, about just over 1,050 absentee ballots. When we have that, we'll be able to come back. It doesn't make sense for us to stay on. I know there's a lot of people on, but I could just regurgitate the same thing for the next 20 minutes for a half hour. What I'll do is I'll wait till absentees come in. We're getting some numbers now. Yeah, we don't have absentees yet. As soon as we have those, we will post those. We will come on. It looks like a clean sweep for the Republicans tonight. The only two things in question, probably tax collector, which looks like it'll go Republican, so which is a change, and potentially Board of Ed. But again, those are long shots. We need absentees to be overwhelmingly Democratic. I don't see how that happens exactly. So that said, we're going to leave you off here. Guys, thank you for joining us tonight. If there are questions, if there are comments, let me know. I'll do the best to answer them. I'll be back on live again tomorrow at 4 o'clock and update you with any final numbers that we have. And we'll put an article up as well. Guys, thank you for voting. Thank you for being part of democracy. Absentees are being counted now by the registrars, very likely. And we should have those pretty soon. But thank you for voting. Thank you for being part of this. I love this town. I love living here. I'm glad you're a part of it. I'm glad we had the outcome we did. We have a great town. Let's keep it that way. Guys, I hope you all have an amazing night. I'll come back on live if we have any changes to the outcome. We'll put the absentees up when we have them. And I will see you tomorrow at 4 o'clock. Have an amazing night, Branford.